Welcome to another episode of the 12th Level Intellects, hosted by the Watchtower Database. I'm James Strecker. With me, as per usual, is Mr. Ted Kendrick, and our very special guest today is Wonder Woman herself, Susan Eisenberg. Thank you so much for being on the show, Susan.
Thank you for asking me and being so persistent.
No problem there. And I'm going to get this out of the way real quick, but I'm talking to Wonder Woman right now, and I'm freaking out about it.
It's so surreal to hear your voice over the other line, yeah. When you first chimed in, I thought it was the automated computer voice for the conference call. And I was like...
When you hear my voice, can you hear Wonder Woman, or is it like, well, I know it's her?
I think it's the subtleties. It's like every other word I can kind of hear the tone of voice, I guess.
Right, okay, got it. Was your main exposure to Wonder Woman comic books, or how?
I'll let Ted take that first.
Oh, man. Well, I first was exposed to Wonder Woman through like the Super Friends cartoon, and I just started reading the comics right as the cartoon was announced. So I got super excited about all this stuff like all at the same time.
For me, it's I watched Batman the Animated Series for several years growing up in 2000 or so, whenever the first Justice League preview came out on Cartoon Network. I didn't care about anything else for the next 7 years or whatever.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
We'll get into plenty of Wonder Woman questions in just a bit, but we first wanted to take a minute to talk about your life.
So I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, in New England, and I lived there for 19 years, and then I moved out to California, and I've been here ever since. And I went to school in Washington, D.C. I went to American University, and I went to school in New York. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Art. And then when I came out to Los Angeles and studied voiceover, I studied at UCLA.
So Wonder Woman went to school at American University. I don't think it gets more on the nose than that. So when you were growing up, did you have a favorite superhero as a kid?
You know what? I didn't. I had 3 older sisters. I still do. And so growing up, my thing was watching soap operas. So Dark Shadows and All My Children, General Hospital. Those were like the things I felt passionate about. Still do. I love my daytime stories. So I wasn't a cartoon gal or a comic book gal. I mean, but of course, growing up when I did, I watched Linda Carter. She really was, and still is in so many ways, my association with the character, because that was my first exposure to the character. That's why I asked you guys earlier, what was your first exposure to Wonder Woman? Because I think that we all have our first love kind of feeling with the person that we met the characters through. No matter what other incarnations you may see, that first one always kind of has that, template feeling.
Yeah, totally. I guess I was too young to grow up watching the show, but I definitely remember her from Super Friends. And how did you get into voice acting yourself?
I had done some advertising for my dad's business back in New England, and I'd done some radio commercials for him. I mean, I was very, very young. I was in high school. So it wasn't like, I think I'll do this as my career, but it did give me a sense of my voice. When I came out to Los Angeles to start being a performer and to study performing, I felt far more comfortable in front of a microphone than I did in front of a camera. That's when I started to get serious about it. When I started, the average person didn't know what it was. Now everybody, of course, knows, and it's kind of blown up as a career. But when I was a youngster in the 1940s, it really has. It's very different now than it used to be. Ooh, sorry about that. Sorry about the horns, you guys.
You can go just flip the car over or something like that, and it'll be fine.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
So, outside of TV, you've performed voice work for a number of sci-fi and fantasy characters in video games like Skyrim and Star Wars. And what draws you to the video game genre?
It's all part of doing voiceover for a television show or a commercial, a radio drama, which I do, an animated series, or a video game. That's all part of being a voiceover actor. So, it's all performing, it's all telling a story, it's all taking something that's on a page and bringing it to life. Who does that better than video games? I mean, it's just quite brilliant. I've been lucky enough to have been hired more than a few times for some really highly visible games. So I've been very fortunate in that regard. There have been a few jobs where it's just an offer I haven't had to audition, and it's, they know me because of Wonder Woman or some other things. Other times it's just an audition like every other job. You're not told beforehand. You're not given any context. So you don't quite know what you're auditioning for. With an animated series, it's a little bit different. I mean, you're certainly aware of what you're walking into.
You mentioned earlier before Justice League, you didn't know much about superheroes or comics, but do you have any favorite Wonder Woman comics or storylines now?
I could have done that. I could have gone and gotten the comic books, but because it wasn't like, okay, go, just do your thing, Susan. It wasn't quite like that. It was also like Bruce Timm was standing there. He drew her, and then I gave her voice. He's like a guru in that universe.
Right.
He, of course, had a sense of who she would be in the context of these 7 people. Really, what I was given early on, and it kind of stayed consistent with the series, was remember that she's a princess and remember that she's a warrior. Give both of those things life. If I would get too princess-like and not enough warrior, there was Andrea Romano saying, bring back the warrior. There was a very clear idea of what she would be like and what she would sound like. There wasn't like, okay, let me go research this or research my idea. I was told what their vision was, and then it's my job to bring that to life. And then obviously as my confidence grew and as I got to know the character better, they could write a little bit more to what I could do best. And they could also play to the chemistry of the characters, which, let's not get started with the whole Batman Wonder Woman thing.
Oh, we'll get there.
And by saying let's not get started, you know that I actually want us to get started, right?
Of course, yeah. No, that's coming up for sure.
Okay.
So the DC Animated Universe had a long run on Kids WB before Justice League on Cartoon Network. And
right.
So I wound up catching a handful of other Kids WB shows just out of pure proximity, I guess.
Right.
And one of those was Jackie Chan Adventures, where you voiced Viper for many years. How do you think your approach to that character is different from how you approach Wonder Woman, other than what we've already talked about with Bruce Timm, I guess?
It's like any script that you get. I mean, it's like, who is this character? Who is she interacting with? What's the point of her being here? There's a director there. There's a writer who wrote the script. I mean, ultimately, she was just a kick-ass, fun character to play. I mean, it's like what you see is what you get. It was one of my favorite characters because I got to be a little bit funnier with her, and she and Jackie were just that perfect foil for each other. Jeff Kline, who worked on the show, knew what I could do and what I couldn't do. It was lucky casting for me because it really wrote to my strength. Honestly, when people say, what are your favorite roles? I mean, that's always at the top of my list.
Do you have a preference between the two?
You know what? There's not even a question that Wonder Woman's my favorite because you wouldn't be doing this interview if I'd just been Viper. Wonder Woman has just been the gift that keeps on giving. Being able to voice her has really been the greatest gift of my professional life. I mean, it's one thing if I'd only done it in Justice League, and that would have been extraordinary in and of itself because it was such an important show. But to be able to still be doing it now in 2017, I mean, I just pinch myself. That just feels incredibly lucky.
Totally. Characters like Batman and Superman have had decades of notable actors playing them, movies and TV, animation, video games, whatever. But you're one of the only handful of actors who've actually played Wonder Woman. So do you think that kind of affects your performance in terms of like having to live up to the legend?
In the mainstream media, it's kind of Linda Carter and Gal Gadot. So I think it's guys like you who grew up with cartoons and comic books and know that history and know the Justice League. For a lot of people, it skips the animation piece.
So you don't think necessarily that Kevin Conroy was in the booth thinking like, oh man, I'm in here, I have to live up to the legend of Michael Keaton and Adam West.
No,
no, I don't think so either.
I don't think he did that at all, and I think that's what's so beautiful about Kevin's portrayal. I mean, I certainly didn't go in there in the very beginning thinking of Linda Carter because she didn't look like anything like Linda Carter did in the show, and I think Kevin did not go in there thinking, how do I live up to this? He did his Kevin thing, and the rest is history.
Did you ever hang out with any of your old Justice League castmates like Kevin? Did you guys become friends while you were on the show together? Kevin
was just very generous with me because he took me to dinner when we first got cast on the show. You know, I was quite green at the time. And, you know, he was a little bit older than I was. He had a lot more experience than I did. And he was quite lovely about introducing me to it. Phil Lamar and I see each other quite a bit because we are in the same business. And we were all able to get together for the reunion in New York in 2015 at New York Comic Con. So that was a treat beyond treats because when you get a reunion like that, you know, and you get that feeling back of working together and what it's like to read the lines with each other, it felt quite magical, I have to be honest. Kin and I are just, we're very close friends. We've known each other a while. He obviously was my Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And I mentioned I'm a soap fan. So I've been a fan of Kin for a really super long time. We didn't know each other when Justice League was being recorded. We met after because we lived on the same street. Randomly, I'm walking up the street one day and I see him. And of course, I knew who he was because I was a stalker. No, because I watched his show, General Hospital, forever. And because I knew he had been on Justice League. So I was able to walk up to him and say, I believe we worked on a show together, but not together. And he said, oh, yeah? So what part did you play? And I got to say, I did a little part called Wonder Woman. And that was a kick. And we've been very close friends since.
For some reason, I forgot Lucy Lawless's name. I have no idea why. She was the first Wonder Woman voice I heard in Justice League New Frontier after your version. And it was very jarring for me to hear a different person doing Wonder Woman's voice. Do you have that same kind of feeling if you hear not your voice coming out of Wonder Woman's mouth?
Of course you don't own the character. It's not mine. Diana's not me. You're going to be asked to voice her, and then there are going to be a lot of other people, especially if you're a celebrity. They can reach a wider audience. The studio is, often going to ask them to voice her over somebody like me. It's really hard to share her, frankly. Mm-hmm. And yet you have to, and you have to learn how to be gracious about it. In Super Friends, it was Shannon. There are all these other people, and you have to realize that there's, big stage, and you have to allow for other people to be on that stage. One of the best compliments I get is when people say they read the comic books and they hear my voice. So I don't know why the studios haven't given the 7 of us more, a Justice League animated movie or putting us all together again, especially since the fans really took to the 7 of us.
I know that I seek out some of the direct-to-video animated movies just because, Kevin Conroy's Batman in this one, or your Wonder Woman in this one, or whatever. Because it's like, yay, the same person.
No, and I hear, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I'm right there with the fans.
You wanted to talk about Batman, Wonder Woman kind of thing real quick, at least. We wanted to ask about, in the current comic book line, Wonder Woman and Superman are more of a thing, and that's kind of happened every once in a while over time also. But I've definitely always preferred the Batman Wonder Woman flirtation over the years, just because Justice League is my Justice League. The question we have written here is literally, do you have a personal preference for Wonder Woman's love interest? I know the answer to this question.
Right, and and obviously I haven't been shy about it, but I've always said that I never think of her and Batman as, quite a couple. They go out every Saturday night, or, they have date night, or I loved, like you used the word flirtation. I loved the banter.
Yeah.
I love that she had his number. I love that. I love that she got under his skin. That was fun to play because it's incredible to be the warrior and it's incredible to be the princess. Another aspect of her as a woman is her love life and gives her a more rounded character, if you will.
Since Batman, the character, is such a playboy, he gets around, Did you ever feel like, oh, Wonder Woman is just another one of those things, or do you think the Batman character is kind of more drawn to her in a more serious way, I guess?
Oh, no, definitely, I think more serious.
Yeah.
I mean, she's certainly not a notch on his belt. His feelings for her are anything but ordinary. It's not like Kevin and I went in and said, let's have some flirty today. It was very clearly on the page. So these two people have a lot of feelings for each other, but it's never really going to be explored, and good, because I think it's more exciting to just kind of still be like watching them. And I love that. I don't think we need to watch Wonder Woman and Batman picking out, preschool for the kids. I mean, that just doesn't need to happen. I think it was fantastic and a little sexy and fun. I've been so vocal about loving to play it, but I've always maintained that Superman, he's with Lois Lane. I mean, it's just like, duh. It just doesn't make any sense for him to be with Diana.
Is there a particular time that you've voiced her that you've enjoyed more than other times besides the Justice League cartoon?
I'd have to say the DCU Online. As an actor, again, if you get to work and you get to voice her, that's a good day. I mean, let's be honest. I get paid to voice a character that is beloved by so many people, and I love her. She feels like family at this point because I've also voiced it for 5 years. I mean, it's a long time to be in that character. And I got very, very attached to her. And then they called me to do the movie and Doom and Apocalypse and all of that. So that Diana and how she looks, like when I see a picture of Diana from Justice League, it's so bizarre. And I'm, don't laugh, but it's like I'm looking in a mirror. So I don't look like that, but it's just like, that's my Diana.
If you could voice any other superhero, who would it be?
Batman?
That's so funny. I was going to say that.
Everyone wants to be Batman.
You know what? Honestly, you guys, I'd be happy if I could voice her for the rest of my career. I don't think it gets better than Diana.
Superman and Batman, they both have their own animated series, but Wonder Woman was the one character in the animated version of DC's Trinity of Heroes who actually didn't get her own cartoon. So if she had one, what would you have liked to see?
I'd just like to see it, frankly.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Like, I'd like a video game for her. I would love an animated series. I mean, she really does not get treated equally. I mean, look how many incarnations we've had of Batman and Superman for that matter. And this is 2017, we're getting our first Wonder Woman movie. I mean, I think we have a lot of lost time to make up for. I didn't grow up with it, right? So I haven't been waiting decades for a Wonder Woman film like the fans have. I want the fans to be happy. I know what it's like to write a fan letter. I know what it's like to want an autograph. I would love if there were an animated series, for her to have Hippolyta in there, because I love the mother-daughter relationship, and to explore that and the relationship with the sisters on Themyscira. I just would love her story to be told in other platforms. So however that gets done, I'm not going to be a piggy about it, no pun intended. She's overdue. We've got some real serious time to make up for.
I saw you and Gal Gadot have met. Have you enjoyed Gal's performance as Wonder Woman so far?
I think she's wonderful, and she was so lovely when we met. Since people have heard her and seen her on screen, they've fallen in love with her as this character. It's exciting that there's this live action embodiment of this character. That's only good stuff.
Only last year she was appointed as United Nations Honorary Ambassador for Women, but she was dropped due to protests. The modern incarnation of the character is a little more pinup model than feminist warrior. What's your take on that whole controversy?
I didn't think it was a controversy. I thought it was absurd. I mean, are we really going to define her by a couple of scantily clad outfits? I mean, she has been this beacon of femininity and equality and justice and compassion for decades and decades and decades, for thousands, if not millions of people. To diminish her that way and make her about an outfit, I thought it was insulting. And yes, she's a character. I think we all understood that going in, folks, that she's not real. But she was the embodiment of something. And it's a symbol that we need now more than ever, as far as I'm concerned. In my animation world, I've heard just too many people talk about what she has meant to them. So for her to get that honor and then have it taken away, it was misguided and it was insulting.
And until we get a movie, or she's really shown to the mainstream audience, I think, that's a mold that she's going to break.
That's the bottom line of so much of this. If there's an audience that's willing to pay for it, it'll get done. I mean, Supergirl has been a huge success, and Wonder Woman hasn't had a franchise. She doesn't have an Arkham. She doesn't have a movie franchise. The character deserves that, and I think that the audience does. If people show up and support her, we'll really have a shot.
Yeah, totally. This year we're getting an official Wonder Woman Day. It's June 3rd, the day after the movie is released. Right. Do you have any other upcoming projects of yours that you can tell us about that you're working on right now?
Actually, there's quite a few things that are coming up. A couple of things I can talk about, other things I can't. There's a really big thing coming up, you guys, and I can't talk about it, and you will love it. It's very exciting. The thing I can talk about is Injustice 2, which will be out shortly. I did an animated movie, not Wonder Woman, but, related to that universe, so keep your ears open for that. So yeah, there's some fun stuff coming up.
At the end of our Alan Burnett interview, he wanted to wrap up with a story that he had about meeting Bob Kane, the creator of Batman, early in his life. Mm-hmm. I wanted to know if you've had any sort of interaction with a high-level celebrity other than fellow cast members that you kind of geeked out about, or oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm meeting this person right now.
So a couple of things come to mind when you ask that. I got to meet Christy Marston.
Oh, nice.
Whose grandfather created Wonder Woman, and she's become a good friend. In fact, when I did a Wonder Woman panel, I invited her to be on the panel with me, and she graciously said yes. That's really been a delight to meet her and to hear her talk about her grandfather and more importantly, to talk about her grandmother, who Wonder Woman really was. Meeting Shannon, who voiced Wonder Woman in Super Friends. We did a panel together in Denver Comic-Con last year. Shannon voiced her for, I think, 10 years on Super Friends. Having that like camaraderie and knowing that we share that history together, that was very poignant to me. Best thing about voicing her, and the biggest thrill in voicing her, has been meeting the fans. When we recorded the show, we didn't know that the show meant what it did to so many people. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until Twitter, and it wasn't until, really going to these panels and these signings where I would actually get to meet the fans and hear their experiences with the character and knowing what it meant to them. That was just incredibly intense. That has been the ultimate gratifying experience of voicing her. It really has. I took to Twitter so late. Dante Bosco, I don't know if you know Dante.
Oh, sure, yeah, Rufio.
Exactly. He's a rock star in his own right. And it was Dante who literally, we had the same agent, and we were in our agent's office, and he's sitting there lecturing me for about 45 minutes, telling me the virtues of Twitter. I just thought, oh no, really? And I can't believe I took so long to get on it, and I'm just so grateful for it. I love it.
I've also met Dante Bosco, so we're basically at the same level of celebrity status, I think.
Nice. 6 degrees of...
Listen, try sitting next to Gal Gadot in the photo. I mean, holy cow.
I've had a huge smile on my face this whole interview, so I think that says something at least.
Oh, God.
It's been so much fun.
Everything. I so appreciate it. And there are younger people, if they met Diana through Justice League, I mean, that's my honor, that's how they know her.
It was phenomenal to talk to you. It's surreal every time that I hear your voice come over the intercom.
Well, that makes me smile. Thank you for, seriously, for the questions and for the sweetness. I appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.